Hello there guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Breaking news, Chelsea Football Club have sacked Frank Lampard as head coach. This, to be honest with you guys, is a really painful video to make. I didn't want to be making this video today. The timing of it does feel very strange, especially given the fact we won yesterday and given the fact we lost to Leicester in that manner. I think there was a lot of us expecting this announcement maybe at some point last week. That didn't happen, and the sense we were getting was that Lampard would at least be given Luton, Wolves and Burnley. Of course, that hasn't happened now, and it does seem very likely that Thomas Tuchel will be Frank Lampard's replacement. I don't know when. It could be before Wolves, it could be after that. We're not entirely sure yet, but it seems to be a pretty quick moving thing at the moment. It's hard to sort of summarise my feelings. Anyone who watches this channel, and I think it's the same for most Chelsea fans, but Frank Lampard, a hero of mine, the first footballer I ever knew. And just, it's not only the fact it is Frank Lampard, and I think it is so brutal and it's exhausting, I think, personally for me, watching Chelsea over recent years and the feeling that we will be back here again in 2 years. I just cannot allow Frank Lampard's sort of dismissal to be seen as an anomaly. I think some have. Maybe if you're outside the club, I think maybe you look at it like this and you'd say it's an inexperienced coach, you know, not a proven track record. There's problems on the pitch. You just sack a manager and just look at it like that. But I can't look at it like that, because I've seen this club do this before, and I get a feeling absolutely that another coach will come in and who have similar issues. I cannot get away from that. I hope I'm proven wrong. I will give my full support to the next manager and a manager after that, as I do with all managers. But I want to talk about Frank Lampard in this video and him being sacked. So Matt Law reporting it this morning. I was going to record my added time video answering your questions. Unfortunately, going to have to scrap that today because a lot of the questions you guys asked were about Frank Lampard being manager. But he reported this, Matt Law, an amazing report for Chelsea, saying that Frank Lampard to be sacked by Chelsea. And then we got the announcement from the club recently. Chelsea Football Club have today parted company with head coach Frank Lampard. They say this has been a very difficult decision and not one the owner and the board have taken lightly. We are grateful to Frank for what he has achieved in his time as head coach of the club. However, recent results and performances have not met the club's expectations. Without any clear path to sustained improvement, there can never be a good time to part ways with a club legend such as Frank, but after lengthy deliberation and consideration, it was decided a change is needed now to give the club time to improve performances and results this season. And very rarely, for the first time, I think, in his ownership, Roman Abramovich has given a quote for this statement, so I'll read it out here. This was a very difficult decision for the club, not least because I have an excellent personal relationship with Frank and I have the utmost respect for him. He is a man of great integrity and has the highest of work ethics. However, under current circumstances, we believe it is best to change managers. I would like to thank Frank for his work as head coach and wish him every success in the future. He is an important icon of this great club and his status here remains undiminished. He will always be warmly welcome back at Stamford Bridge. It's absolutely gutting. There's no way around it. And, you know, I've seen a lot of this over recent weeks when we've been discussing Lampard, criticism of Lampard. You know, I feel I've tried to be as objective as possible and tried to be critical of Lampard without ever going into that ridiculous sort of parody line of screaming out, because that's not the way I treat managers. But always this argument that comes back of separating Frank Lampard, the man, sort of the player, the legend, the Chelsea icon, from the manager and the coach himself, which I think at times you just do naturally. You know, I'm criticising his tactics, his team selection, I'm doing that. But just at a general level, no, because the reason why we love football, the reason why we support football clubs is to have that connection with players, with managers, with the club we love. I think it's absolutely ridiculous to ask fans to just completely separate it out and be dead clinical. I'm a fan. That's not going to change, unfortunately. But it's not only that upsets me today. It's the exhaustion that comes with this decision. I feel like with Tuchel, with beyond that, Nagelsmann, you can throw out many names that we could list for the next few years. We're going to see similar issues. When I'm hearing stories, inside reports from sources claiming there was friction as early as August or even before then, August 2020, I'm talking about, before a ball was kicked this season. You have to ask questions. And when I see numerous coaches from different countries with different backgrounds, no matter if they've won silverware before, they've won massive trophies before, like Sarri, they haven't won a trophy before. I'm seeing similar issues. I don't look at the coach anymore. I look at the board and I say there's a problem here. And I think people have to. You have to be objective enough to look at the evidence here and say there's a clear issue. If, as one source apparently told The Athletic, that if Frank went on a 4 or 5 game bad run, which he has, that he'd be sacked, that's to me an issue. And anyone asking for a project, wanting a project, that's not going to change no matter who the coach is, because Tuchel could have the same issue once again, and beyond him and beyond him and beyond him. It's Groundhog Day. It's just tiring. It really is. And it confuses me. It annoys me. And I think that you back an inexperienced coach like that in the summer, but then sack him at the first sign of trouble. I look at the board. I don't look at Frank Lampard here. I think there's a lot of spin that will be done potentially by the club to try and put a lot of this on Lampard. But you were the ones who backed him in the first place. You knew the pitfalls of bringing in a young coach, that he was going to be learning on the job. He was going to be making mistakes on the job. Not only that, but he was integrating young players into the team who needed time to develop. There's so much of that stuff to me that I think will be swept under the rug and swept under the carpet. But these are fundamental issues that I see consistently at Chelsea now, and that's my concern. That, you know, say let's talk about Tuchel coming in, for instance, and another coach coming in. If they know that 4 or 5 games they could be done at this club, why would they bother integrating young players into the team, you know, if they don't have that much connection to Chelsea to begin with? Because what's the point? And that's why we have Kevin De Bruyne situations, and why we will likely have them again, because if they know that there's no project, if they know that really it's just about next week, it's just about the short term, it's just about can you get me 3 points, rather than building anything sustained that's actually going to help Chelsea. My issue has been, you know, short term worked about 10 years ago when we had an amazing squad full of players like Frank Lampard and JT and Didier Drogba who could get us out of difficult situations. My issue is I look at Liverpool and Man City, and whether you thought Frank Lampard was the right man for that project or not, my issue is if you're not going to give anyone that time, then I think we're going to get further and further away from the Premier League title. And it's been the case for 3 or 4 years now. We've been fighting for Champions League qualification. We haven't been fighting for the Premier League title. I really hope that changes, but I feel like you have to be fearful of that, because I'm seeing repetitive things over a number of years now with different managers and different sort of philosophies and sort of ways of approaching Chelsea. It's concerning to me. It really is. And I think it should be to every fan, because you have to ask serious questions about the long-term vision when it seems that there isn't really any sort of long-term vision to give a coach any sort of extended period of time if they go through one sticky patch. This was really Frank Lampard's first worst patch. You know, you think back to last season, which I'll get into now, because for me that is the legacy of Frank Lampard. The thing that he leaves with that sadly other coaches haven't, because of this whole sort of short-term philosophy, is an actual legacy that hopefully will be built upon. And the legacy I'm talking about is bringing in young players into this team, the likes of Mason Mount, the likes of Tammy Abraham, the likes of Reece James, even though he's gone on loan now, for Kaio Tomori getting an opportunity last season in the first team, Billy Gilmour having a wonderful game yesterday, and hopefully he'll have a bright future too. These players have not only saved Chelsea probably millions in transfer fees, but it gives that pathway from Cobham to the first team, the academy to the first team at the Bridge, that for me has to be regular now. This has to be the mindset of Chelsea. We have such an incredible academy. I think Frank Lampard, Jody Morris and Joe Edwards deserve credit for that. Not only that, because we've seen some incredible players come through, like Mason Mount, seeing his development, wearing the captain's armband yesterday. Tammy Abraham looks like such a bright prospect. Billy Gilmour, Reece James looks like he's going to nail down that right back spot for a long time now. Here in the background at Chelsea in the academy, that people were excited by Lampard's arrival because they felt that finally there would be a pathway. You know, if you're someone that really backs this short-term vision, as I've said before, and I'll say it again because I think it's an important point, if you back that short-term vision, absolutely cool, but then don't moan when great young prospects don't flourish at the club and we bin them off too early, right? And they go somewhere else and thrive, right? Because if you're endorsing that philosophy, you're also endorsing Kevin De Bruyne type situations, aren't you? And that's my concern. Once again, moving forward with Chelsea, because I think, once again, Groundhog Day will be here again in 2 years asking similar questions. But I want to thank Frank Lampard, because it's not only as my hero, as the first footballer I ever knew, coming into the club, and at such a difficult and toxic time as well. After Maurizio Sarri's tenure, whatever we felt about that, it was, you not only had that, you know, the friction between fans, the divide between fans, but the transfer ban too, losing Eden Hazard. You know, the thing I'm going to say about anyone trying to dismiss what Lampard did last season, Antonio Conte won a Premier League title, and in the following season with Eden Hazard and with the bulk of a Premier League team with some good investment, or at least we felt good investment in the summer of 2017, he failed to get Champions League football. Frank Lampard, with no Eden Hazard, an inexperienced coach with 1 year experience at Derby County, with untested young players with a transfer ban, got Chelsea Champions League football. And I think there'll be a lot of groundwork. I've seen people compare Frank Lampard to Claudio Ranieri, and that may be his legacy at Chelsea, you know, sort of that person that has transitioned the squad from older players into younger players. The feeling there is a bright future for Chelsea, which I think there is with this squad, at least in terms of their personal careers. Whether coaches are able to see through that at their time with the club, we're not entirely sure, but I think that's what Frank Lampard should be praised for, because I think he deserves a lot of credit. In a rocky time for the club, it really was, especially last season. It could have gone much, much worse, and Frank Lampard retaining Champions League football was incredible. And some of the memories I have of Lampard, and unfortunately, you know, not being at the ground, it's just, that's even more heartbreaking, not being able to see or say farewell to Frank Lampard, or, you know, give him that support that he needs at the moment from the bridge that I know the majority of the Stamford Bridge will be giving him right now. But also last season, those small moments, the likes of Ajax at home, an incredible game where you felt like the emotion, it was such a crazy game, but just the emotion in the Matthew Harding Lower and around the ground that night was incredible, that you felt like under Lampard something special could happen. I think about the wins away to Spurs and Arsenal, the scenes at full time, especially Frank away to Tottenham, going to the away end. These are the things that I think gave us so much hope of something with deeper meaning behind Lampard and sort of what he could bring to the club, and that special connection that many fans under Sarri felt they lost, you know, and had back with Lampard. And that's something that it's hard to take at the moment, because you feel like we're going to lose that, and being able to get some of that connection back, I think it's going to take a lot of time for this decision to heal for some fans, because the connection they have to Lampard, I think if you're dismissing that, I think you're just being illogical, because Lampard, what he means to so many fans, and the idea that there could be something deeper with a coach like Lampard for a bright future for Chelsea, I think it's hard to take at the moment. I think Frank Lampard was such an amazing spokesperson for the club. I don't think there are many managers I've seen in my time supporting the club that have spoke so well, so consistently, over and over again, backing up the club, backing up the feelings and emotions and representing of the fans, you know, over and over again. I haven't seen that before. That's not, you know, a fault of, you know, say foreign managers who come in and maybe have a difficult grasp of the language, but I think that Frank knew so much about Chelsea fans, were so connected with the bridge and what Chelsea meant to supporters, that's something as well that's quite rare to find. In terms of Frank, I wish him all the best. I think that, you know, I think he's got an incredible football brain. I think he'll go somewhere where I think he will be given time and given patience and given the respect he deserves. And I think that hopefully, you know, there could be a dream scenario down the line where he could return to Chelsea. I don't think at the moment. I think, as I've sort of pointed out in this video, I think a lot has got to change before someone like Frank Lampard, or before any coach comes in and is given a sustained period of time to actually build something. But I actually think, you know, there's a lot of credit in the bank for Frank Lampard because of what he did last season, and I think it's very hard to judge him, not only being such a young coach, but coming into such a pressurized environment, especially last season, getting us top four, bringing in some incredible players in the transfer window too, that I know he had a hand in doing and convincing coming to the club. And I think he's got a bright future in coaching, to be honest. And even if he doesn't, incredible player, incredible man, my hero, an inspiration to me in my life, I'm sure, like many of you. So thank you personally, Frank Lampard, for what you continue to do. So those are my thoughts. It's very hard to sort of reflect on today. It's quite a painful day for Chelsea fans. Where we go from here, especially going forward, whether we have a new coach in for Wolves or not, it's a pretty quick turnaround. So I'll do my team selector and preview, but it's quite hard to do because, you know, obviously with a coach, you have sort of expectation of the way they play players and how regularly they play players. So it's going to be difficult. Let me know your opinions on this difficult day for Chelsea Football Club in the comments below. Hit that like button if you're enjoying the content. Subscribe if you're new. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea. Have a great day if you can, or just try and be as happy as you can at the moment. And, you know, Chelsea are going to be here tomorrow. We're going to support Chelsea. We're going to support a new manager. I'll be here making videos as well. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.